Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 31, I'll be tying the Royal Coachman Streamer. It's an effective little pattern that the trout can't seem to get enough of. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, here we go. The Royal Coachman Streamer. Trout can't seem to get enough of this fly, especially those early and late season stock trout. They love this fly. So first step, placing the hook in the vise, making sure that the shank of the hook is parallel to the tabletop. Now let's begin by covering the entire shank of the hook with thread. I like to use 8/0 thread. It's a little thin, but I just like the smaller diameters. It makes, for tying a lot less bulky flies. So once you have this shank pretty well covered, I missed a couple spots I'm going to go back over. I like to start out with a good thread base so that any materials that I lay upon it or on top of it, they bite in nicely. So now the first material we're going to put in is the tail. Now the tail is made from this golden pheasant tippet feather. So I'm going to clean it up a little bit here. Get rid of these, stray fibers and just exposing what we have to work with here. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to take a section of this feather very carefully, because we don't want to mess with the alignment too much. It's not exactly an easy process. We want to keep all these bars nice and even, as you can see, the top bar and the mid bar. I could very easily take the center section out and pop it in, but you know me, I don't like doing things the easy way. So here I go. So I'm going to take this side, but I'm going to flip it around so that I can make an easy transition, because the natural ends are here, and these are going to be this is going to be the cut end. So I'll just take that section, that group. There's about 10 to 12 or 15 fibers, and I'm going to just try to keep that alignment as, there we go, perfect. So now we have the first bar and the second bar of the feather. I want to make sure that the second bar is even with the back end of the hook, the very back end, just like so. And again, the natural ends are jetting out the back. So the back of the bar is going to be even with the back of the hook. Once you have that in place, just secure it with as many wraps as you need. Another thing is, all this excess I want to ride all the way up, because whatever I put on top of that is going to be magnified. Later on, you'll see what I'm talking about. So now we have our tail, and it looks pretty darn good. So the next step is to, for this fly, this is just like another variation of the Royal Wolf, the Royal Coachman wet fly, the Royal Coachman dry fly. You have your golden pheasant tippets, a bunch of Peacock Herl, some Red Floss, another bunch of Peacock Herl, your throat, and then your wing. So let's get started with that. So the next step is placing that first bunch of peacock, and we're using 2 fibers or Peacock Herl, cut right off the eye of the below the eye of the peacock tail feather. It's got a nice iridescent color to it. So we're going to take that and we're going to tie that in just like so, right on the side closest to me. And I'm going to bite into this or attach it further up the feather, because again, I want to ride all this extra material up so that you'll exactly see what I'm talking about. It'll keep everything level, a level playing field as far as like the floss body that I'm going to put on after this first bunch of Peacock Herl. So we're just going to create a little ball in the back. Just keep wrapping, slightly overlapping. There we go. That looks good. Now secure that bunch. Very nice. And then again, wrap this herl up. Clip off the excess. So your first bunch is built, and we're going to do the floss body now. So far we have our tail, we have our ends as even as we can make them, I guess. And then our first bunch of Peacock Herl. And now for our body, our floss body. Cut off, I have 4-strand floss here. I like to twist it together, kind of. You just give it a little twist, just like so. And then again, fasten that in like you did everything else. And then cover up all the excess, keeping that uniformity in that our next step here, as close as possible. Now I'm going to begin wrapping this floss body, one wrap at a time, definitely overlapping. You want to keep the same height. It's not real easy, but it can be done. You're going to go up about to the 3/4 mark of the shank of the hook. That looks pretty good. Tie that off. 6 or 7 wraps. Clip off the excess. And now, as you can see, we have our tail, our first group of, or bunch of Peacock Herl, wrap Peacock Herl, our nice smooth body, not too bad. And now it's time for the second bunch of Peacock Herl. You can tie that in just like you did with the previous bunch. Secure that on the side of the hook closest to you. Clip off the excess, and you're going to make that bunch. Try to make them pretty close, pretty even sizes. Okay, that's not too bad. Secure that with 6 or 7 wraps. Clip off the excess. Now, a couple more securing wraps. It's looking pretty good. Now, the next step would be putting the throat in, or the collar. So the hackle that I chose is a Coachman Brown hackle. I'm going to strip off the downy fuzz. You want to get rid of all that, ugly stuff on the bottom. And notice that there's a curve to the hackle. When I tie it in, we want it tied in curved down, not curved up. And also, when I fold this hackle over, notice that the length of the fibers are about 2 times the gap of the hook, and that's what I'm looking for. Okay, guys? 2 gaps. So from the stem facing up to the tip of the fiber is about 2 gaps. So I'm going to tie that in tightly up against that last bunch of Peacock Herl. Just like that. Clip off your excess. Carefully grab the hackle with your hackle pliers, perpendicular to the stem, and begin wrapping probably like 3 or 4 wraps. And again, I always like to chase my hackle and then secure that. Clip off the excess. Now I'm going to comb all this back and wrap into it slightly. There's your nice collar. Not bad. It's looking pretty good, guys. Looking pretty good. Now for the fun part. So let's review what we have here. We have the tail, which we said that the second bunch of, the second bar is the back of the second bar of the feather, of the golden pheasant tippet feather, is in line with the back of the hook. As you could see, the the back of it, not the front of the bar, but the back of the bar is equal to the back of the hook. And then we built our first bunch of Peacock Herl for the body, the beginning of the body. Then we built a nice even Red Floss body, followed by another bunch of Peacock Herl, followed by your nice collar. And the length of the fibers are equal to 2 gaps of the hook. Now, that being said, the fun part begins. Putting your wing on. And the wing for this fly is made from no other than white-tailed deer tail. Just like this. So now, this tail fibers are very fine on top of the tail. And as you go down the tail, you'll notice that the fibers get more hollow. You don't want to grab this hollow stuff on the bottom, although it looks really good. It's just not suited for the material that we need for this wing. We need something that's pretty solid, like, you know, not hollow at all. Can't be hollow. If it's hollow, it's going to flare up and it's going to look terrible. So, as you can see, I've beat up the midsection of this tail, mid to tip section of this tail pretty heavily from tying a lot of Coachman flies or black-nosed dace or whatever. So we're going to select a bunch from that area. So pretty much what I'm going to do is measure about 3/4 of the gap of the hook, sneak my fingers in here, grab a good amount, you know, that 3/4 of an inch mark, clip off the bunch, and there it is, guys. There's my wing. So now I have to even up these ends, or some of them are pretty close, but you know, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can put it in a hair stacker and, you know, line them up that way. Sometimes I like to use both methods. I draw out whatever's shorter and then just line it up like so. And I repeat this process over and over until it lines up a little bit better. It's getting, you can tell that it's working because it's getting denser. But I'm going to cut off a little bit of that. It's a little long. I'm going to stick it in the hair stacker. And pretty much what you do is you get rid of these long ones and line them up. Stick the natural ends as opposed to the cut ends into the hair stacker. Natural ends go in. And just give it a couple taps. Again, I'll use both methods. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that's not bad. So now we want to place the wing on top of the shank of the hook, and the length of the wing must not exceed the length of the tail. Okay, guys? So there's your tail and your wing length, almost perfect. So grasp that very tightly, and I'll try to point that to the camera a little bit. Squeeze the daylights out of that wing and shank of the hook at the same time, and put your first wrap on. Again, I'm using 8/0 thread, so you got to be careful with the light stuff, especially when you're, you know, anchoring deer hair. So once that's anchored with like 8 or 9 wraps, you can now clip off the excess. And I like to clip it off at an angle that is associated with the angle of the eye of the hook. So I'm going to pick that excess up and clip into it. Got a little bit, missed a little spot there. There we go. Make sure the wing stays on top. And now begin covering all the excess. Just like so. Very good. Nice skinny head, 8/0 thread. All right, fly's done, guys. Tie your finishing knot. Clip off it. Dress it up a little bit. If there's any wild ones, get rid of them. A little drop of head cement. There it is, guys. The Royal Coachman Streamer. Excellent fly for early to late season stock trout. All trout, but the stockies love them. Honest to God. Thank you for joining me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on my next episode of the Fly of the Week. Tight lines, guys.